is an unrehearsed program. The views expressed are those of the guests and not necessarily those of the producer. Today's topic:
proposal to close military prison in Passion for Truth award-winning programs.
Welcome to another edition of Passion for Truth. Should the U.S. close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, permit access by the detainees to the judicial process, or release them as soon as possible? How soon will the internal debate over the fate of this controversial facility resolve this question? Ann Buwalda, Director, Jubilee Campaign and Honor Just Law International, she recently testified before Congress on material support regarding refugees. Shakur Ahmed, Chief Executive Officer, We Empower Incorporated. Khan Singh Delom, Managing Partner, Regent Company. Holly Jalani, Political Analyst, also a Chair of the Asian Task Force of the United Nations Association. She has been working in Iraq for the last 3 years. Tim Ferriss, a news commentator and a legal analyst. Welcome you all. Starting with you, Anne, you think everything that is done in terms of questioning the detainees is within the boundaries of American law?
No, it was completely defined outside of the boundaries of American law from the standpoint that these individuals were in an area where terrorism was known to have happened and terrorist activities taking place. So what our government did was redefine them as enemy combatants, which removes them out of the scope of any kind of international law or domestic law. They do not have constitutional rights. They do not have any rights of any national or resident of the United States. Never have, and they never will, and I don't personally think they should.
Prisoners, Shakur, who have been cleared of all connections to terrorism have no idea when they will be freed. Is that alarming?
Well, I think emotionally, right after September 11th, there was momentum there, and I guess as more stories are coming out, I think there's a real challenge in terms of the justification of what our government has done, and how much damage it's causing in the international community. So I guess it needs to be addressed as quickly as possible, and prisoners who have been held for a long time should be released, and we need to take some safety precautions so our image is not tarnished in the international community.
Why is Khan Singh taking so long for America to find the truth?
Well, why is it taking America so long to find the truth on so many issues? Everything takes time to get further flushed out, and in a time of war and in the circumstances we're under right now, it's unfortunate, but this is no different. Rather, this is one that will probably take even longer and have more systemic long-term effects that we won't see until further down the road. I think what we're seeing now is probably the tip of the iceberg.
But according to Pentagon, 121 of the 460 detainees at Guantanamo Bay are not eligible for release or transfer to the custody of their home countries.
Well, that's correct, and a number of them, who have been released, and a number of them who are on tap to be released. Again, there may be questioning that will come up at the last minute that will hold them up. This is just the process that's been put in place. As was mentioned by a previous colleague here, they've been put in a category all their own. At this point, when you say rights, there should be a question mark next to it. What rights? Because they don't seem to have any. And I'm not necessarily sure that at this point, with the fact that there are a reasonable number through time being released, I read that obviously there have been a number of them, over 15% that had been released, and now there's a number of them further that are in the pipeline. I think that through this process of the weeding, at some point, they are going to be sent back to their home countries, or that place will be evacuated. But when that happens, it's all up in the air at this point.
So there is no relief, Holly. If they are released, they will be released to their home countries, and the home countries are going to do mercilessly what they need to do.
I think the problem for a lot of these prisoners has been, and one of the reasons why I feel very strongly about it is because I was asked a lot, my opinion was asked on what we should do initially when we knew that we had gotten a lot of people by mistake. Those are the ones that I feel most angry about, because these were human beings that we did absolutely nothing for to rectify the mistakes we'd made. What we've actually done is we've created a whole bunch of individuals who probably become potentially not just anti-American but potential terrorists to join extremist groups. Of course, if they go back to countries that are going to be treating them badly anyway, the incentive is raised even more to go to some alternative organization that's going to prey upon their, you know, the victimized status that they probably are going to find themselves in.
We've had numerous cases reported where we've run somebody through the system, chucked them out, released them, and they've gone right back out on the battlefield, and there they are again, fighting our people. So, war's chaotic anyway, and I understand why the government's going a little bit slowly. They don't want to make that mistake again. On the other hand, when somebody's clearly been cleared, we ought to get them out of detention as quickly as possible. If they can't go to their home country for the reason that they're going to be oppressed, tortured, jailed, killed, whatever, find some place to send them.
And on that point, we sent 40 Uyghurs to Albania. You know how long it took us to find Albania, somebody to actually take them? I should say, Uyghurs are a minority group in China, severely persecuted by China. The United States did not send them back to China, knowing they would be tortured there. Consequently, the United States sent them to a country that would receive them. I know from meetings with officials that it took a tremendous amount of time to find a country willing to take them. It was finally Albania.
Well, you know, again, there's two sides to this, because on the other hand, they're sending people back to Pakistan. And believe me, the kind of treatment they're getting there is one that puts Russia to sleep, and the KGB and the whole rest of the 9 yards. So I can tell you that there's two sides to this coin, and I think that this is going to be a long, drawn-out, to some extent, a process of wondering who's really the detainee and should be released, and who's really the detractor who's going to be put back out on the street and come back and commit the crime again. Because often that's one of the biggest issues
Although
you have.
some of those returned to Pakistan did go back to the battlefield.
And exactly, and in a very, very violent manner.
But I think the challenge is, you know, this is the longer it takes, I think is going to create a lot of issues for us in the international community. And also, not only that, I think we need to put a lot of resources. And I understand that you're fighting battle on different front, but this is something, a PR. It should not be taken more like a war on terrorism, but more like a PR battle. Because, you know, if you could address that part, you know, you could see some of the damage which we have caused over a long period of time could be reduced and could be improved upon.
I think the biggest problem for me has been not the people whom we know have done bad things, but I'm talking about shepherds who are taken because we took, you know, translators from here who could only speak Farsi and no Pashto, and we put them on a mountaintop, and you hear some poor shepherd calling out in Pashto, and all of a sudden he gets arrested and he's put in Guantanamo Bay because nobody understood what he was trying to tell them. We've had too many cases like that, and they're festering in Guantanamo Bay, and those are the families that end up coming to people like myself. I'm not talking about the terrorists. I'm talking about innocents who were just taken up in the sweep. We knew they were